Here we go.
You are listening to the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Fouché Ray with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Fouché Ray Radio Show, live every Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m., sponsored by a nonprofit organization called Canine Hope for Improvement Program, where we hope to improve the quality of our dogs' lives by moving towards a no-kill society. The number here is 818-602-4929. Well, my reasons for doing this radio show are many, but the nonprofit side is more rewarding because of the close bond that I have between the people I speak with. It's very significant and similar to that of my dogs. But as the people are trying to understand what I'm saying, and I'm trying to get them to understand why I'm saying what I'm saying, dogs can suffer. See, for many years I have said to strangers, love and affection can create aggression in our dogs. And people for many years have thought I was crazy. But in my scientific studies, this year alone, involving over 930 dogs who had aggressive tendencies, I observed that these tendencies were produced by using the same test objects that the researchers use in the institutions to produce behavior that leads to excitement that is later rewarded in a primary or secondary fashion, meaning food or praise. And further studies show that by talking to the owners of those 930 dogs, all evidence show that it started with the same objects, toys. Have we all missed something? Had the scientists not realized that the objects that they were using to produce stimulation in the dogs would also have an effect on the dog based on what the dog did with the object and what the object was and what he was doing with the object in the presence of the owner when he received the reward? This is why it's important to know the lifestyle that the people live with the dog, how we influence them to move forward in life, how we embolden them, because this can come back to bite us in the butt. What we do with our dogs, the life lessons that we are teaching, will be used at some point in the real world, not an obstacle course. Think about it. When you play rough, predatory games with your dogs, both of you are engaging in a predatory mindset. So now when you take your walks, your dog is hunting. And when they see someone else with their dog that's hunting, what do you think they're thinking? And what do you think is going to happen? Both of them are thinking aggressively, and any dominant move by either one can spark a potential fight. The reasons why this may be difficult to stop or to fix is that you have done it for so long. And it's difficult to put something in the place of a strong predatory lesson. That's why sometimes with a neurotic dog that has a fixation with a ball, he can be distracted because it produces the same excitement level. And until we can put a stop to the tricks and the games long enough to understand, we won't be able to get to a level that will allow us to truly love them for what they are, because we keep making them something else, neurotic. One of my clients named Sharon said in my office that we're all just living in a dog food commercial. And that's true, a false reality, a fantasy. Most people don't even know that you could have a relationship with your dog beyond the games. One person told me once, "What's the purpose of having a dog if I can't play ball and tug of war?" And I looked them right in the eye and I said, when you're dealing with aggression, the worst thing to have is intelligent stupidity. Listen, people, the kind of love and understanding I'm talking about when dealing with a misunderstood and abused dog is different. Some didn't even know it was possible to love them until they understood them like I do. It's deeper than the superficial love, the cosmetic love. I'm talking about unconditional love, loving them for what they are, not what we have made them. I'm talking about without ego. We must look deeper than that, much like the beginning period when we are infatuated with someone and become friends, and then we become boyfriend or girlfriend, and then this is my fiance, and then this becomes your husband or wife. But there is a deeper level than that we have not been taught to enter into. But our dogs can help us get there. They can help us because with them, we take the barriers down. We allow ourselves to become vulnerable. And then the level that I'm talking about, it becomes visible to us. Sometimes when you love a creature that's aggressive, you suffer. You become vulnerable. Oh, man. I'm talking about the life of a rehabilitator, the thing that you must become. But you're going to be a little uncomfortable if you're going to be successful. How can you say that you want to be a pack leader without some stress? In understanding nature, it is something that can be so difficult, yet the simplicity will blow your mind. But you won't understand that until you're patient, till you're present, in the moment, accepting every bit of it the way it is before you can understand completely. Otherwise, you will get percentages below 100%. Now, I know this is deep and different. And to some, it may seem an impossibility, and that Brandon's just speaking gibberish. But I'm telling you what I live 24/7. And at this point in my opening, I'm really talking to people who are still having problems after having success. You've got to hang in there, people. The people that are around this are here to help you. So don't give up on your dog if you love them. And the people that I have on the show today have not given up. In fact, they have pumped it up to the next level. And that brings me to my first caller with Molly. Molly, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
You're welcome. You know, you've got a beautiful dog, and I wanted to have you on, and I want you to express to our listeners what you've been going through with your beautiful dog. First of all, tell us his name.
His name is Bodhi, and he's a black and tan Shiba Inu.
Right. And what's been going on?
Well, you know, I've had him about 4.5 years, and right around a year and a half, he started becoming aggressive. It started off as just simple leash aggression, and then one day he was attacked by a Shiba Inu that lived on our block, who was off leash, and I reacted, and I didn't think about how to get him out. I just stuck my hand in the middle to pull him out, and he bit me. He knew what he did, but still, he bit me, and that should have been the first flag. And then after that, it was like I couldn't take him to the dog park anymore, and because he would get really nasty in front of other dogs and get in their face, and he has bit a couple of his other friends. Nothing like major, but just like little tiny like scrapes, but still, it's enough to should have been more flags for me. And then and he could not go to the dog park anymore, and he was incredibly aggressive on walks, and if we saw another dog, we'd have to go out of our way to walk around the dog, like crossing the street. And then a couple of weeks ago, he bit a gardener who was in our neighbor's front yard. We were all there, and he just went after the neighbor, or went after the gardener, excuse me.
Wow.
And that's when I realized I need to do something. He's a major liability, and I love him too much to not do anything about it. And I just started Googling dog behavioralists that deal with aggression, and your name popped up.
Okay. And look, when you came, like most people when they come to talk about their dog, they can be very, protective, and they worry about it.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I was very worried.
And I remember when you were filling out the paperwork, you said, now this says I'm liable for blah, 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 And, of course, we understand why that is. It's just, formality, protection on my end. But it tells me a little bit about you, as an owner, and why the dog is acting the way it's acting. And I know even though the dog is there for the evaluation, I'm actually evaluating you along with the dog when you first bring him in. And I was able to see that you have this personality that's very outgoing. You're very down to earth. You get it. You are a people person. And then you later told me, what your profession is, that you actually speak to a lot of people. You handle a lot of people, and they can be crazy too, right?
Yes, they can.
Right. And much like what's happening in the dog park with the dogs. So I knew,
very much so.
Yeah, I knew at that point that you were probably going to be able to get this, And when I evaluated your dog, I'm always looking to see if it's genetic or if it's a learned behavior. And what had happened was when the attack took place with your dog, you weren't able to fix that. It was like something that happened and boom, you went on and you didn't reintroduce him to that situation. And that's what a lot of people do. Once something negative goes down, they're out of there. And that's what the dog is left with. And so every time the dog runs into that same type of situation, when they feel that their owners can't protect them, and in this case their leader can't protect them, then they protect themselves. And that's what you were beginning to see. Is that correct?
Yes, it was. He was trying to fill a role that he couldn't fulfill, and it was stressing him out.
Right. Okay. Now, more importantly than that, when we talk about the history of this dog, and much like what I was saying in the beginning of the show, you were that kind of person. You and the person that you were with were actually bringing this side out in your dog.
Mm-hmm.
We
were, through games that we were playing and, fetch and tug of war, and when we'd give him a new toy, he would just tear it to shreds to get to the squeaker, and he would shake it. It was a hunting instinct, and of course we thought that was love, like that was the way we were showing our love. And it's so funny because I was the problem, and then at the end of the day you taught me that I was also the solution to everything. So that was very refreshing, and it was also kind of like I could just breathe. Okay, I can do this.
Right. And a lot of times the things that I'm going to tell people to do is, in some cases, simple, okay? And it's simple because most people are having the same kind of problems with their dogs, okay? Just a different dog, a different person in a different place, but pretty much that problem is the same. And when we look at this situation, and I'm able to tell you where the problem is coming from rather than go straight to fixing the symptom, how does that make you feel at the end of the day, knowing where this came?
You know what? Honestly, it was a huge relief. It was like, I can fix this. We can do this. I really thought I had tried everything and anything. And when you broke it down to me, it was so simple, it just made complete sense. And it was just like an aha moment. Like, I can do this. Bring it on. Let's do this.
Right.
Because I love my dog, and at the end of the day, I'm willing to do anything for them. I have two of them, so I love them so much, and I want them to be happy. And if the solution is up to me, then why not do it?
Yeah, that's it exactly. And with so many people, when we actually sit down and talk about their problems, they will find out that the problem that they actually have or that they acquired it very simple. It was so simple they didn't even see it happening. They just all of a sudden, we got this problem.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought this was just kind of like appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. But it's been building, And how is this making you feel? I mean, what kind of feelings were you having with your dog while this was going on before you came to me?
It was sad. It was heartbreaking because I was always having to keep a really close watch on him. I couldn't take him to the dog parks anymore, and he used to love to go to the dog parks and run and play. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a backyard, mm-hmm. and when we go on walks, I was constantly having to keep him on a tight lead because, I live in a neighborhood with a lot of other dogs, and if we encountered one he didn't know, he would go bonkers, and I would just mm-hmm. have to it was always like, Bodie, no, Bodie. And so it was very stressful, and it was kind of heartbreaking because I know that, I can't, if a friend of mine has a new dog, we can never really probably get them together because Bodie would go mm-hmm. bonkers on them, and I just can't risk it. But now knowing that, what I can do to correct it has made things so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just such a relief. Yeah. Because I can help him, and it is through my actions.
And what's so good about your personality? Once you saw that, you were 100%. You were like,
yeah, I was on board.
Yeah, you were on board. I really like that because, when we're uncomfortable, and I always tell people, they say, well, when should I do this, Brandon? When should I practice your techniques? And I always tell them, when you're feeling weak, like you're not able to control the situation, that's the time that you are to do something that is assertive, emotionally, so that you can build your confidence up. And when you do that, your dog is able to read that emotional response that you have, and then they automatically know what to do. And that's what you've been doing, and hopefully that you have tried to eliminate your training words. I know it's going to be difficult.
Oh, it's not easy, but I catch myself, and it's getting better. It's a redirection, and it's just an adjustment, and I can adapt easily, and so mm-hmm. can my dogs. They're very smart, and we can all adapt. It's not that we can't. It's just some of us don't want to try, and my dogs are worth trying for, and I'm going to adapt. And mm-hmm. Honestly, they're taking to it very quickly, and if I just stick with it, it's just going to become a way of life. And, if it takes a couple of months of just really, focusing what I need to do to, get rid of the words that you've told me to and mm-hmm. just really focus on the simple techniques that you taught me, then why not? Yeah. They're worth it.
And I want to tell everyone, the times that you catch yourself saying those words, that's the moment that you forgot about me. Okay? You forgot about what I've been telling you. So every time you do that, I want you to think, what would Brandon say? And that's going to help to keep you on the right track, And right. Then, of course, you're going to have to get with people that are actually going through the same things that you're going through. And this is where we're moving with this show. We want to get people together to do the hikes and go to the dog parks and, things like that. Maybe one day, we might develop a dog park that's designed for dogs that have been through rehabilitation or coming out of the shelter that have been, evaluated, and a group of people that are working together, and we'll create our own dog park. But right now, we want to get people together that are having the same problems so that we can make this thing work. And so now that you've gone through all of this, which is the critical part here, it's easy for your dog to come to me because I've been doing this for so long and for me to extract from him what I need. But then to be able to extract it in a way that I can give him back to you and you can go home and get that same result, that's the key here. And that's what you've been able to do, you know?
Right. It's been night and day. It's pretty awesome how just the things that you taught me and being able to apply them at home, how it really has just changed the whole dynamic. And it's amazing to see the results.
Well, that's good. And I want to keep this up. You know, I want you to continue to call me, and I want you to continue to, you know, come to me. You need to come again. We've only had an evaluation, you know. And
Bodie will be coming once a week. I know he had a blast there, and I want him to continue with you. And I think it's a great way to just apply, you know, reapplying between what you've taught me and him seeing it from you and me. I think it's really important, and it's the best way to rehab him.
Exactly. And is there anyone else that you'll be dealing with him, or is it just you?
It's just me. There was somebody in the picture a while ago, but that's no longer the case. But it's just me and Bodie and his little sister.
Okay, good. Well, you know, look, I'm always happy when I hear things like this and when I meet people that have that kind of energy that you have. You know, I know that you're going to be successful. And, you know, I always say that my place is like one flew over the cuckoo's nest, right? And what I mean by that is there's a bunch of, you know, I call them crazy dogs. I call it like it is because they carry baggage, and it's a way to have fun with it. But what I'm really saying is I've got so many different types of dogs, personalities, and when he walked into my door, I knew that mine because I had a guy look just like him, same behavior.
Oh, they look like twins.
Twins, you know. And it's so great, you know, when that happens because, you know, the connection is there. It's like an emotional connection. I thought about, you know, the one that I used to have, and we were able to make that connection quickly. You know, much like, you know, when you meet friends or you're in a relationship, some people you get along with a little better than others, and some is a little more difficult. So in this case, you know, we got lucky, and he was very close to me. So I'm really happy that that you came in, and I want to keep things going, and I'm sure that you will. So thank you very much, Molly, for coming in.
Well, thank you, Brandon, and thank you for all the stuff that you have done for Bodie and I. And trust me, we'll be continuing. There's no doubt about it. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Okay?
All right, thanks, Brandon.
You're very welcome. I want to connect another gentleman here that I wanted to speak with, and let's see if we can get him on the line. Okay, give me just a moment. Let's this is a gentleman that just came to me, and he was having very serious leash problems, and you know, he's about ready to leave, I think, the country, and I want to see how things are going, and I want him to talk to our listeners about what's happening. So let's see if we can catch Jim.
Is not valid. Please check the number and dial again. Message 3. The number you have dialed is not valid.
Okay.
Please check the number and dial again.
Well, we'll try him again. This is very interesting because this is a German Shepherd, and it's a pretty nice-sized German Shepherd. And this dog was okay, and then it started attacking. And he's husband and wife, and we want to help this guy. Let's see what's up. His name is Jim.
Hello?
Jim, how you doing?
Hey, okay.
Okay, well, I'm happy we got a chance to meet you. Get you online to talk about Callie. Very quickly, can you tell us what you've been going through with Callie? What's been happening?
Yeah, sure. Well, we came to see you because we're having a lot of trouble with her being really reactive and aggressive towards other dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially when we're out walking around, she'd be on the leash, and as soon as she'd spot another dog, she just took off, just exploded. She'd start pulling, barking very, very loudly, aggressively,
Mm-hmm.
really struggling to get away to run towards this other dog that she saw.
Mm. How long have you been dealing with this?
About a year and a half.
Oh my gosh. And I'm sure you've tried to get help, right?
Well, yeah, we got referred to a few other dog trainers in that time
Mm-hmm.
to try to get help to deal with her. And everybody we worked with, really felt like they could help her. They wanted to help her, but nothing really was very successful.
Okay. I want to explain why that is. Okay. And this all comes in the evaluation. When your dog showed up, I'm looking genetically as well as learned behaviors. I was able to see that Callie is mentally and physically dominant. And the reactivity of the nervous system is high. So it's hard for her to focus. And when you try to train this kind of dog, you actually create more stress. And so that's what you were experiencing, and that's why she tunes you out. This is the kind of dog, let's say if you were to take her off the leash, she'd be gone. I mean, she would not come back. Or she would come back, but I mean, she's going to do what she wants to do first. She's not going to think about you. She's not going to do what I say what my dogs do. They have one ear to the stimulant and one ear to me. This is not that kind of dog right now. And so that's why you weren't successful with her, And so once I realized that was happening, then we began to evaluate her on those levels. And what did you see when you picked her up?
Yeah, when I came to pick her up, she was really responsive. At first she was very excited to see me and was kind of doing her usual thing,
Mm-hmm.
like very, very, very hyper and running around.
Yeah,
And,
that's normal.
and you told me, you asked me, do you like this behavior? Do you want her to calm down? And I said, well, yeah, I'd like her to not be running around and jumping and so crazy. And you said, well, tell her, correct her. And so we dealt with that. And, suddenly she was listening to me.
Mm-hmm. This is really, really important, because we confuse our dogs where they come in, they're excited to see us, and we reach down and we say wonderful things because we think that's polite way to greet our dogs, and we show them that we love them, but we're actually producing more of that neurotic behavior. And that's the problem with the training, because it's not actually dealing with the reason that we began to train in the first place. So we begin to avoid the issue. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I could totally see a change in her
Mm-hmm.
from the time we picked her up at your office through, the next couple of days, her at home, she's really paying attention to me, and, she's much calmer.
Yeah, and you know what? And she's able to pay attention to you in a way that's more verbal now. You're controlling her at a distance. Is that correct?
Right, yeah, she's very keyed in on my voice. If I say something, she looks at me right away.
There you go, man. That's priceless. So you're not having right?
It's a very good feeling.
You're not having problems at that fence with the other dog now?
So we haven't had a problem yet. There have been a couple times where she started to do her usual thing and she was running towards the fence, and I just stood up and corrected her, got her attention right away, and she just went off and did something else.
Right. You just called her name. Is that what you did, or you just said hey? What you do?
I called her name or say hey.
Right.
And so trying to get into a pattern of which one it's going to be. But
okay, no problem. Well, look, that's why I wanted to have you on, because I know you're going to be leaving the country. Is that it?
Well, it may seem like that to Californians, but moving to Nebraska.
Okay, yeah, that's why I said that. All right, yeah, that's what it seems like. Well, congratulations to you, man, with the move and with your dog. And I think we're going to see her again before you leave, right?
Yeah, I'm going to bring her back by this Saturday for daycare.
Okay.
And let her get a little bit more practice.
Okay.
Yeah, with, getting used to seeing other dogs, because that's been a big issue for us.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really been able to let her be around other dogs because of the reactivity. I think that was really helpful for her, too.
Yeah, you're going to be able to get that. You saw the videos I put up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Take a look at the videos. And listeners, take a look at the videos of Molly, Molly's dog, Bodhi, and take a look at Callie. And we're going to be talking to Rita, too, and she's been on the show before. But, Jim, thank you for coming on, and I will see you Saturday, okay?
Okay, great. It was a pleasure. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Well, our next caller is Sarah with Rita. Sarah, are you there?
I'm here, Brandon.
Okay, great. You got a really interesting story. I really want people to hear you. Your observation. I always say that I'm a mediator with my dogs and that I am an observer. I'm always observing them in the moment, and I'm allowing certain things to take place that are normal dog behavior. And those things that are neurotic, I stop. So, in other words, when my dogs are doing what is appropriate or what is right, I say nothing. And what I mean is, good boy, because I said nothing. What you're doing is great. I only open my mouth when they're doing something wrong. So I'm able to see that they can grasp that better than me calling their name when they do something right and calling their name when they do something wrong and rewarding them for behaviors. That's why I tell people, stop using those words, because they're preventing you from being able to see clearly what I'm trying to present to you. And I want you to tell our listeners this story that you have about walking your dog. I think it's very interesting. Can you please?
Yeah, well, so Rita's been doing great, since she started seeing you and I started talking with you, and she's been doing great on her walks. And one thing that I noticed about her is that she really loves people. She had dog aggression issues, but she really loves people. She loves being around people. She thinks everybody wants to be her friend, and that was one thing I noticed when we were on walks, that if we walked by a person that really paid her no mind, that was just, not interested in her, not interested in dogs, she would just kind of like walk on by and really wouldn't know. Like, she might look their way, but would just kind of walk by. But the minute that anybody gave her just the smallest thing, like raised an eyebrow or smiled at her or just anything, like an energy, she immediately would just like veer off and just want to go right to that person, like just right over to the person. She'd go over and and they'd pet her and she'd be so happy and it'd be great. Mm-hmm. So I started noticing that, and I started thinking about that in her, the way that she relates to other dogs, and wondering if it was kind of the same or was related, in that maybe I wasn't picking up on some of the cues, when I was going by other dogs. Mm-hmm. And there was one day recently, we were walking by, I was taking her for a walk, and we were going by the neighbor. And I had told him, he had asked when we moved in, can our dogs play together? And at that time I said no, because, we just didn't even allow her to be around other dogs at that point. So I was walking her, and we were walking by, and Rita started veering towards him, like she does when she wants to go by a person who really wants to, has this energy that's like really happy. And so my neighbor said, is it okay? And I felt it more than anything. I said, yeah, you know what? I think that it is. And, let Rita go up to his dog, and it was great. It was the first time, I mean, she's been around your dogs. I see that she can get along around other dogs now, and that it's going to be okay, and she's going to get better. But this is the first time ever that I was walking her by myself without, your assistance or anything. Let her walk up to a dog, and it was totally fine. She sniffed that dog. I've actually never seen her outside of your place ever sniff another dog.
Okay.
She sniffed the dog appropriately. They kind of, circled around the tree. It was very calm. Like, everything was just very calm and easy. And, we talked for just like a minute, and I was like, okay, let's go. And we walked away. And I was just like on the inside, I just wanted to, be doing cartwheels down the street, but like you were just saying, it's like, no, it's like, okay, we're just moving along. But it was, it was a great moment, and it was after that moment, and this is what I was talking to you about yesterday, or you were talking to me about it, it's starting to learn how to pick up on energy or cues that she's giving me, like just paying more attention to her.
Yes.
And what she's trying to tell me, which I don't think we were doing before. Before it was like, well, this is what I want you to do, and this is where I want you to go, and this is how I want you to behave. And
right.
And sometimes she didn't want to do that,
Yeah, you're getting it. I mean, when you have that moment where you realize something that was in plain sight, hiding in plain sight, you realize that it existed, that was something that was valuable. That's invaluable, I mean, for you to connect those two things together, just a person's eyebrow movement or their finger towards your dog, and your dog noticed it and moved towards them. And then you saw that same thing in another dog, and you allowed it to happen. You were in the moment when it was happening, and you saw how beautifully it played out. I mean, how does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel, I can't even put words on how it makes me feel, because, we spent years just avoiding other dogs. Like, you see a dog, you walk to the other side of the street, so it makes you feel like you can, that you're going to have a different life with your dog. Your dog's going to have a different life. You're going to have a different dog with your life, and you're going to have a different relationship with your dog. And it's not to say that I wasn't scared, like walking up to that other dog, and I did warn the neighbor. I said, I don't know, she might give him an air nip, but I know they won't get in a fight. Like, I believed that,
right.
Whereas before I did not believe that. I believed that there would be a fight, right. No matter what,
Well, I always say you're going to be a little uncomfortable. But how can you say that you're going to be this dog's leader if you're not a little uncomfortable, That's why you really got to be on top of this thing. You got to really want this to happen, and then really listen and look at your dog and pay attention. It's like, I believe I had mentioned to this before, it's like a relationship. I always hear, men and women, the relationship, and someone says, look, I don't want you to fix my problem. I just want you to listen to me. Just let me talk. Understand me, right? And that's what you're doing with your dog. And I'm sure around the house now, you're starting to see things that are different now.
Yeah, around the house, and this is what, I was talking to you about too, there's a drastic difference around the house. And I remember when Craig and I, the very first time we brought Rita to you, and you were asking us about, like, well, how are things around the house? And we're like, the house is not a problem. Like, that's not a problem at all. It's just outside. Well, now seeing how different she is and how much she listens to us, and how it's just so different. Like, our neighbor or our friends used to call her the Rampage, because she would just be like tearing it up all the time around the house, and she'd go berserk if someone knocked on the door, and now it's just like she is calm as can be. If someone knocks on the door, she'll pop her head up, she might give one little bark, but she looks at us. Say, like, is that okay? Is this something I need to be concerned about? And
exactly.
And it's great. And I was telling you too, like, we had 4 extra people in our house last week staying with us, and I was wondering how that was going to go, because, you know, she gets excited easily, and it's a playful excitement, and people like that, and so they do that with her. And I didn't know how it was going to go, and there were moments where they would do that. You know, they'd be like, "Come on, Rita, come on," you know, and they'd be running, and she'd get kind of excited, and it was amazing that Craig and I both, we could just, you know, say her name firmly, or, you know, just look at her, or just give one little command, and she would just stop and be like, "Oh, okay, I forgot. Right. I'm not, you know, I'm not supposed to be getting excited like this."
Exactly. And this is really critical, because if the human being is making mistakes, they cannot blame the dog when they make a mistake. Okay? So if you get it together and you mean it, because your dog is a pack animal, they will fall in line behind you. That's the key here. You can't be afraid and do nothing. You can be afraid and then do something to embolden yourself, because this is really about fear of what other people think about us when our dogs act up, fear of being embarrassed. I mean, there's a whole gamut of fear, but you're working through that. That's so important, that you're feeling strong now, and that's why you're seeing the change in your dog. You know, that's why you're seeing the change. I'm so happy to hear that story, because, you know, I come here every week and I talk about these things, and these are the kind of things that I want you to realize, you know, to be able to see. You know, out of love, you're able to see something that was hiding in plain sight, and then you say, "Aha, I get it." And you start paying attention rather than allowing your ego to control the situation. You got to step back in the moment, see what your dog is doing, make notes, and say, yes, and keep moving forward. That's the problem I have with training, because it makes you move backwards. Everything is about avoidance. And if we're going to socialize our dogs, we have to move forward. Just like with human beings, we can't socialize if we're not moving forward. So important when I hear these aha moments. And, you know, right now I want to bring in, with our conversation, I want to bring in Patricia, Dr. Patricia. Are you there, Doc?
Hi, Brandon.
How you doing?
I'm here.
You know, I want you to come on, because, you know, even though you do wrong things, I want to hear about them. I want to hear about the right things you do. You know, I remember my grandfather said to my uncles one time, they were having problems with their relationships, and my grandfather says, "Look, you don't call me when you're kissing, so don't call me when you're fighting." But in this case, I want to hear about it. And you actually had an aha moment that I'm excited about too. Can you tell our listeners what that was about?
Sure. Before I completely confess my sins and beg for your absolution, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you so much for all I've learned from you, because, as some people might know, my emphasis is on, I volunteer at the city shelter and with the rescue group, and for years I've been really into the behavioral aspect and always trying to help the underdog get some help. And what I've learned from you in the Fouché way is more than, I mean, it's completely changed how I handle dogs at the shelter, and it's helped dogs get adopted that were misunderstood, and it's completely changed my life. So
wow.
I want to thank you so much, and I'm so grateful.
Well, thanks for being a part.
And that being said, I completely cheated on you and failed.
Well, tell us about it.
But fortunately, no one was hurt. Okay. So I have these dear friends who are very strong in rescue, and they've rescued and helped hundreds of dogs over the years. And I was visiting them, and they have a pack of about 6 dogs, and we were just relaxing and, you know, having a good time. And then there's one dog they have who I've seen several times who we just have a thing for each other. And, like, in fact, they would say, like, "Oh, he loves Patricia." I mean, and he would get, you know, like, get on me in a dominant way, but we would call it hugging, and then I would let him, and I would just stroke him under the arms, and like everyone would say, oh wow, he loves Patricia, like you can be his godmother, like that kind of thing. Okay, so I've already been around him several times. In fact, one time they came to my office to visit, and then I go, look, he'll even stay with me because, you know, he loves me so much, and they walk out the door, and the dog stays with me. So that's the history, okay?
Right.
So then I was visiting them, and then he was, you know, hugging. I felt like, this is so wrong. It felt so wrong. I felt like deviant behavior because I was giving a ridiculous amount of love and affection, and then he was, you know, on me, like hugging me, but that's, you know, dominant, which I knew wasn't cool, but I still allowed it. My ego, you know, I was being stroked, and then I was sitting at the table, and then he had his arms on me like he was dominating me, and then I was still like petting him, like it was totally ridiculous. The whole time I kept feeling like I was cheating on you, and I felt it didn't feel right. It's probably like someone who, you know, is eating junk food and feels guilty or something. Like it just didn't feel right. Like it felt
but it's good while
weird.
you're eating, right? Feels good while you're eating.
It was like a weird conflict inside myself, like that I go, why am I doing this?
So let me wait.
This is a large dog, like a Rottie mix, large dog. And then, like, yeah, there's my buddy, my friend, my godson of a dog at this point. I mean, then he just totally, I heard a thing that I go, was that a growl? And then it totally escalated, and then he totally went for me.
Now, wait, let me picture this. I want to picture it. So you're sitting down, and he's, like, got his paws on your knees? Is that
exactly.
Okay, and you're, like, stroking him underneath him?
Okay. And I've been there for hours, and we've been, like, they have 6 dogs, and I was just, like, petting him, and we have our thing, and everything's going, like, oh, he loves you. Yeah. I was just completely doing that.
So just tell me, I want to hear the emotional aspect of this. So now you're stroking him, and you're questioning what you just heard, right?
Well, I heard a growl. I mean, I thought it was that, and then, yeah, I go, wow, okay. I felt like I was 2 people in one. I felt like I was the Fouché way. You know, I never cheat at the shelter, really. And then I felt like, what the heck am I doing all day petting this dog? It's like I felt it was weird, but I kept doing it. And then as he did that, and then it happened, I kind of, the part of me that always is thinking, what would Brandon do or think, goes, yeah, love and affection escalated, and look what happened. Like, hello. I mean, I got to witness it, you know. And then the other part of it, then I explained to the people, like, I go, I just produced that. Like, I explained, because they know you. In fact, you helped one of their dogs before, and I explained, that whole thing. And, I mean, they, you know, took him away for a few minutes. He calmed down, then he was fine. But, like, wow, that was really amazing to experience that, because I actually have never done that before. And I've heard of other people that I've known, and your clients and people in the Fouché Way community. Obviously, when we hear some of the stories, there was too much love and affection, so I've been able to tell other people.
Yeah, you know.
There I am doing it, and then I go, oh, God, if I ever tell Brandon, he's going to kill. Oh, my God, this is so embarrassing. I never tell anybody.
I love this kind of stuff, you know.
Then I confessed, and
I love this
help
kind
other
of
people
stuff.
And whatever, so I hope you forgive me.
Oh, absolutely, because that's how you got to learn, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like I said in the beginning of the show, you know, people say, you're crazy if you say love and affection creates aggression. And because the love that we are actually giving to our dogs, they perceive it differently. Now, they can learn it, but at the same time, it's like they're 2 dogs too. It's the part that they learned and the part that's genetic. And the part that's genetic is pretty strong if it's been nurtured. And so when you're doing something submissive and subordinate to a dog that wants to climb, then in order for them to climb, they have to do something dominant and assertive. The same thing that I'm asking you to do when you start feeling weak about not being able to control a dog. And that's what the growl was.
Oh, yeah. It turned into a full-blown, like he was going for me at that point.
Wow.
But it's all good. I mean, fortunately, it's all good.
Well,
we just got to observe that, and it's fine. But,
well, that's right. There will be other moments. But I want to
I won't be doing that again.
Well, it'll be something else, but that's okay.
Okay.
I want to thank you, Patricia. I want to thank Sarah, Rita. I want to thank Molly. And I want to thank Jim for coming on to the show. Very interesting stories, very interesting lessons. And as often, next week will be the same interesting story. And I hope to see you then. thank you for tuning in to the Fouché Way Radio Show, and I will see you same time, same place next week. Thank you.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.